My name is Joletta, and I'm someone who has lived with pain. My pain story started back in 2010 when I stepped off a fire engine during the course of my work as a firefighter paramedic. I wasn't doing anything cool at the time. I was just in a hurry and I missed the step and went straight from cab to ground and felt a twinge in my right hip. But it was just a twinge. I wouldn't have even called it pain at the time. It was just a twinge that I noticed, and I still ran into the emergency department and grabbed my clipboard that I had left inside. I ran back to the engine, got on the engine, we went back to the station, and I just kind of carried on with the normal course of things for a little while, but that twinge didn't go away and started to become pain. Little did I know that that misstep off the fire engine was going to lead me onto a path of ongoing, relentless pain that kept persisting and that I didn't really have a good explanation for. I was entered into the workers' compensation system and I saw a lot of different clinicians, but didn't succeed in any of my treatments. I failed those treatments, kind of in the vernacular of healthcare. I failed physical therapy, I failed injections, and ultimately I failed surgery too. I had surgery about just over a year after I initially felt that twinge, and I had really high hopes that that surgery was going to be the thing that fixed me, because I had gone for so long without having a diagnosis and without having an explanation for why the pain in my hip was getting worse and why it wasn't going away, regardless of all those treatments that I was going through. But the surgery didn't fix me either. So the surgery fixed my anatomy, but it didn't fix my pain. After that surgery, I was back in the healthcare system doing physical therapy and doing all of these things to try and rehab and get better and get back to my work as a firefighter paramedic. Because before all of this pain started, if you had asked me to define myself, I would have said, I'm a firefighter. To me, that encapsulated everything that I was. I was strong, I was fit, I answered 911 calls for a living, I fought fire and saved lives, and that was wholly what my identity was. And then all of a sudden, with this pain experience, I wasn't that thing anymore. I wasn't the firefighter, I wasn't strong and fit and the kind of superhero I imagined myself to be when I was in that role. And that sense of loss of that identity and that confusion of not knowing who I was one of the most difficult parts of my pain experience. It was just really disorienting and world upturning to not know who you are anymore, and to not feel like yourself anymore, to not be able to do the things that made you feel like yourself. So I wasn't doing my job anymore, which I had wholly identified with. I wasn't working out anymore. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't even engaging with my friends and family because it was so painful to sit. So I couldn't be in a car. I couldn't go to the store. I couldn't meet a friend for coffee or a drink. I couldn't even sit on the couch with my husband to watch a movie. So my life became really, really small. And I just kind of withdrew into the shell of my former self and became totally disconnected from the world and all of the things that mattered to me. After the surgery, it was another couple years that I was just in this spiral of worsening pain that didn't get better, and I didn't have an explanation for it because the surgery was supposed to fix me. So not knowing what was going on, not knowing what was going to help and make it better, just led to some very dark and confusing years for me. And it was a really difficult time just because I didn't know what was going on and I saw no path forward. About 3 years to the day that I had felt that twinge in my hip, I medically retired from the fire department. So was no longer working for the department at all. I had worked in a civilian position for a couple years before that. And I decided that I was going to take my pain into my own hands and figure it out myself. And I went back to graduate school and studied human movement. Because I had these very biomedical notions of pain. I felt like if the pain was in my hip, it had to be in the structures in my hip, that there had to be something wrong with the joint or the bones, or it had to be something wrong with my movement and my posture and my biomechanics and that sort of thing. So I went back to school to study human movement and chose pain science as my research focus. And that opened the door to so many possibilities and to a different way forward. I finally felt like my pain was real. It was so validating to understand that pain is this complex biological, psychological, sociological experience, that there's so many different things that contribute to our experience of pain, that it's not just what's going on in the tissues where we feel our pain, which could be daunting too, knowing that there's so many things that can contribute to pain, but it also gave a lot of ways in to change that experience too. There was a lot of things that I could do within my own life that could potentially change my experience moving forward. And that perspective shift just helped me so much, recognizing that pain is this multi-system response, that the whole person is involved, and that our new and repeated experiences have an influence on that pain that we're feeling and on our biology in general, and that I had some control over what those new and repeated experiences were. So I started focusing less on trying to be rid of the pain to get back to my life, and started focusing on getting back to my life with the pain, no longer fighting it. It was no longer the enemy. I was no longer at war kind of with myself in this pain, and just took it with me and got back to the things that mattered to me. I got back outside, just being in nature was just a revelation, because the world was still out there and it was still beautiful and awesome and majestic and all of these things, despite my absence from it for so long. I reconnected with friends, I reconnected with my family, had some really awkward conversations like, sorry, I disappeared for 3 years, but I'm back, and if you want to be a part of my life again, I welcome that, and this is kind of where I am now, and had some really open, awkward conversations with people, but just really began to connect again with the things that I valued, and that gave me purpose, and that gave me a sense of self-worth, and that I was me again. Started doing the things that made me feel like me, and that changed everything. And now I consider myself recovered, which doesn't mean I'm pain-free, and none of it happened overnight. I'm living really well with pain from time to time, but I don't have pain all of the time now. And to me, that's recovery. To me, that means that I'm better. To me, that means that I've healed, and that's a really good place to be.